And in your morning checkup, an estimated 7.2 million Americans age 65 and older have Alzheimer's dementia. That's about 1 in 9 Americans. Last week, the FDA approved marketing for a blood test that can help with early diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. Here to tell us more is Wish TV medical expert Dr. Janelle Gordon. And to give some people some background why I'm doing this interview is my father has been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I am his caregiver. And when I first heard about this blood test, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you needed brain imaging to get a full diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So what exactly does this new blood test measure?
I had the same thoughts, Tara. So typically when we see someone, they come in, we get their history, we'll do a physical exam to include a neurological exam. We may do brain imaging to look for plaques, amyloid plaques in the brain, which are one of the hallmark signs of Alzheimer's disease. So this new blood test, LumiPulse, can actually help us detect if there are tau proteins and beta amyloid proteins in the blood correlating to amyloid plaques in the brain. It doesn't measure those plaques directly, but it can tell us if there's a presence or absence of them.
So this test cannot just be used alone to diagnose Alzheimer's.
I'm glad that you state that. So we don't want individuals to be confused about that. It needs to be used in conjunction, we're being told by the FDA, alongside the medical history taking, the physical exam. You may also have cerebral spinal fluid check to look for those proteins in the brain imaging, as we talked about.
Okay, so first thing in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, well, I have a family history. Is this something that I can get tested for? But this is a specific age group. You have to meet certain criteria in order to get this blood test.
Yes, certain criteria must be met. So the individual must be 55 and show signs and symptoms at this time of Alzheimer's disease. We aren't sure what will be the criteria in the future. And some of those symptoms might include forgetfulness, names of people who you know, places that you frequently go to and now you can't recall what it is and where it is. That individual would qualify for testing.
So when people go to their primary care doctor, can you give this test, or do you have to be referred to a neurologist? Like, where are you supposed to go to find this blood test?
Yes, so the goal would be for it to be available even in the primary care setting. So right now we know primary care physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants typically are on the spot with diagnosis for Alzheimer's disease 60% of the time. Specialists, the neurologist, around 78%. This test, 90% accurate. So with over 90%. So when there was a positive result, it was comparable to plaques in the brain on PET scan, as well as protein in the cerebrospinal fluid. When there was a negative test result, it was over 95% comparable to the other tests.
All right, so if people are watching this and they're meet that range of 55, what kind of early signs or symptoms do we need to be thinking about?
So early signs of the disease include forgetting names, forgetting what you were saying in a conversation. You and I could be speaking right now, and I'm talking, you're talking, and then all of a sudden, what were we saying? And individuals will say, well, I deal with that even now at my age, right? But it gets worse and more frequent with someone who has the disease. As the disease progresses, it can go on to issues with activities of daily living, dressing, cooking, eating, balancing a checkbook. Individuals may notice that their mood worsens, they may be more angry, hallucinations, a host of signs and symptoms that viewers can see in my article at wishtv.com later today.
Well, that is fantastic. Wow. Well, hopefully this will lead to bigger and better things down the road. So thank you so much for bringing that to light. We appreciate our Wish TV medical expert, Dr. Janelle Gordon.